great Gidwani from the First Ward, who sent a letter to the editor saying that the city deserves better than Loretti. And you know, over my 30 years, I've always appreciated my critics, or not so much, only because I know that most of their dialogue and commentary becomes personal. It's very, very rarely rooted in fact, as is the case may be here. And Mr. Gidwani starts out and says that apparently the system is irrevocably broken. Irrevocably broken. I thought to myself, well, how does he qualify this? You know, considering the fact that we didn't go through this last year. And he references the fact that kids are not being picked up by the school buses because we're not managing properly. And I thought to myself again, okay, where was this commentary last year when the city took over the buses? Virtually non-existent. And so, you know, if you look around the state, the country, and the world, the last year, it's not hard to know that there are many things that have been disrupted in our lives. Government, school, recreation, transportation at every level. No one should be surprised at that, except Mr. Gidwani thinks that it's singular here to Shelton. And so I did some research and got some numbers from the Board of Education, and let me qualify this. These are the total school runs needed and provided in the morning and in the afternoon. And this is for the month of February. There were 545 runs that we made, 10 of which we missed. 10 out of 545 for the month of February. If you go to March, there were 396 runs, and 8 of which were missed. So that means that the kids didn't get transported by the buses because there was a lack of availability for buses. And it has nothing to do with the resources that we have to provide the service, but it has to do everything with the fact that there is a pandemic and that people are sick, people are staying home, they're calling in sick. Last Monday, we had 17 drivers that called in sick. And so we were unavailable to provide 2 runs, I think it was, that day. Started out as 4, but we scrambled and put together private contractors and took some of our other personnel at the bus depot to fulfill the runs. And you know, if timing was an issue, then so be it, but it was not for a lack of effort. And so all of this week, we've been down 12 to 13 drivers because, as we know, when you get COVID-19, you're required to quarantine for X number of days under the CDC guidelines. And so, you know, that hampers things. And so, as I said to you earlier before, this is not an issue that is singular to Shelton. Last couple of months, the city of Waterbury had 30 drivers that called in sick and had to cancel bus runs. Last November, the city of New Haven had to cancel school for a month and a half for lack of bus drivers because bus drivers called in sick. And so, you know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, we see that in Stratford and Trumbull and Monroe, surrounding communities. Again, not singular to Shelton, but, you know, in this political environment that we live in, people like to think that other people in the public are not smart and that they will buy into all of this rhetoric. And so, you know, going a little bit further, I want to talk about the fact that last year, sometime around November, school was shut down from November to January. No school at all. The reason being is that they couldn't staff the classrooms because teachers called in sick. And they couldn't get substitutes to fulfill the classrooms, empty classrooms. So is this singular to the school bus transportation in Shelton? I'll let you decide what you think it might be. You know, the other thing that we have been expeditiously working on with respect to school transportation is the automated system that is the responsibility of the Board of Education. Is called VersaTran. They have a system that does the routing and establishes all the routes with input from Board of Education staff up at central office to give us the information where the kids live and establish the routes. Well, you know, not only has that not been updated in 10 years, but I'm also told that there is probably anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kids in the system that no longer exist. And so we are going to be working the next couple of weeks with Versatran to update the automation on our buses for our drivers, reestablishing new routes. Some of you may have heard me say over the last couple of months that our school enrollment is down 1,300 students since 2009. You know, that's not insignificant. If you look at the capacity of an elementary school, that's the equivalent of 3 elementary schools. Well, not only do we have the same number of elementary schools that we did in 1990 as we do today, but we also have the same school bus footprint as we did 15 years ago. That hasn't changed. And so now I'm going to tell you that it is going to change. It's going to shrink that footprint. It's going to make us more efficient. And for all those people out there that deny the fact that we saved $1 million a year by taking over the transportation for the school system, I would just call their attention to the court settlement and the fact that our guarantee price of $3,150,000 is $1.2 million less than what Durham had quoted the school system 2 years ago, and that they were all set to sign on to. And so that $1 million gets compounded for the next 2 years because we agreed to a 3-year contract with no increase. And so I think it's important for the public who still has an open mind to understand the facts surrounding some of this negative commentary that is coming from people who are disenfranchised with whatever it is that drives them. And so I'll stop there and we'll move on with the agenda.